for more. These show.
Start by saying it's a very exciting moment for me personally to see everybody here in the theater and to have you all here. It's very exciting. This show brings together a lot of very diverse and wonderful people who are terrifically talented, and it's just a delight to put them together in this way. It's our first kind of program of the Hooker Dunham. And it's something I'm hoping we'll be able to do maybe once a quarter, something like that, to say, let's bring together all the talented people trying different things. The notion of tonight's show is really on the order of a workshop more than a polished performance. That is, this is people showing what they're working on, their works in process, as Charles put it about his piece. And it's just a really wonderful group of people, and I don't want to hold it up too much other than to say a couple quick things. We are being videotaped by BCTV. If any of the performers feels that's not what they want, they really don't want it seen anywhere, just let me know. Yes. And we'll cut that segment. No, we'll amplify it. Absolutely. I once made a guffaw at a wedding video. You think that's the part they cut? No. Okay. The whole notion here is that creativity is a process, a continuous process of learning that all of us are engaged with, in whether we're, 12 or 13 or 14, or we're, add 60 to that. And, whatever it is, we're always learning, and that's what makes it a wonderfully exciting process. It's all about taking risks. It's all about supporting each other. My great hope is that the Hooker Dunham, among all the wonderful venues in our area, will be a place where people can come together regardless of which their religious belief or theater affiliation. It's open. And it's open to people, and it's basically supported by you all. It's the whole notion here is nobody makes a profit. It's that we all profit by the wonderful show of creativity that's displayed and by people taking a risk and stepping out. So I want to thank all the theater organizations in our area, BTC, ATP, Apron, QRZ, I made that up, and for participating, and it's just a terrific experience of creativity and community, as well as the individuals who have stepped forward. And to begin that right away, without further ado, we'd like to start you with a little bit of music, which I think is always delightful and always neat on the stage of Hooker Dunham. So please welcome Amy and Kurt, who are going to come up and sing you some songs accompanied by banjo and cello. Thank you.
Just be a moment while we set up, and this is definitely a work in progress. So I am very happy to have heard your introduction, John, and know that Kurt and I have been married for 25 years, and we're just starting to play music together. So it's a very exciting change in our, a new addition to our married life. It's rather awesome.
Testing.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Right here.
Okay, I can't see.
How about the back row?
Oh, yeah.
Loud and clear.
Good. So, we usually sing I feel better about that. All right. Our first song is Glory Bound.
Oh no. We're going to switch around?
think we're going to start with Glory Bound. All right. This is an old-time tune, and I am learning a little bit of old-time banjo. I'm fairly new to the banjo. And this is a new banjo for me. It was given to me by Kurt for Mother's Day. So
Oh, good God, Kurt!
And Amy got me, well, not the cello, but the cello lessons because I need them.
all right, so here we go with Glory Bound.
When I hear that trumpet sound, gonna lay my burdens down, gonna lay them deep into the ground. Then I'll know that I am glory bound.
I am traveling far from home, but only love for you. I'll be crushing our great divide to a better home soon I will resolve.
Hallelujah. When I'm in my resting place, I look on my mama's face. Nevermore will I have to know that bleak loneliness that's plagued me so.
So I'm waiting for that train to come. I know where she's coming from. Send me hear her on the track, and I know I won't be looking back.
Hallelujah. When I hear that trumpet sound, gonna lay my burdens down, gonna lay them deep into the ground. Then I'll know that I am glory bound. Hallelujah.
Thank you. And we're going to sing one more song for you. This song is called Jubilee, also an old-time song. We just learned this song with the women's chorus, the Brattleboro Women's Chorus, which I'm a part of. And it's just a lovely, sweet little ditty.
People are generally unaware of the rich history of banjo-cello duets. They date back to the early 19th of May.
And we also were kind of interested in the name Jubilee and where that came from. So we pulled out our very old dictionary and we looked up Jubilee. Kurt?
Jubilee derives from a word, it sounds like that, but with lots of food in your mouth, from the Zoroastrian period of the late Mesozoic. Somewhere way back there, and Zoroastrian. It was a Zoroastrian thing. The Jubilee was an imitation of the trumpet sound that was used at Jericho. After Jericho, people really got into trumpets, and they thought they were just genuinely very effective. So they used them to announce all sorts of religious events. And then, and later, the word came to mean, you forgive me, but I really like etymology. It came to mean any kind of religious event. And then it came to mean almost any kind of event with a long period, a repeated event every 50 years. So we discovered right after Amy's birthday, where she sang that her 50th birthday, that it was actually very apt for her birthday because it meant most modern meaning in the 19th century was an event, a party or something that happened every 50 years.
So this is my Jubilee.
How's this go?
All around the
I think that just shows that we're definitely going to have more banjo and cello coming back. I think that's got to be the definite great combination. Thank you so much. All right, next on our agenda here, we're going to go for something a little different. We're going to have a monologue by Tim, who is actually, I would say, a scene partner of mine. You're going to see us later do something. All the way he had to get special permission to cross the border because he's from New Hampshire. We didn't allow him to cross the river, so come on up, Tim. He's a retired English teacher, and he is going to be performing for us a monologue Richard III. I understand you'll explain much better than I.
Maybe it's Richard the Absurd. I'm going to sit down if it's okay. I'm actually going to start by telling you a story about a great teacher, my favorite English teacher ever, who taught me monologue. He was the first teacher I'd ever seen with a beard. They're common now, but in 1965, not so much. Back then, male teachers generally dressed like FBI agents or undertakers. Black suit, black shoes, white shirt, skinny black tie. Mr. Tunis, that was his name, Bill Tunis, came out in his big bushy red beard, and he wore pretty much what I'm wearing now, except he always had a corduroy jacket with a leather buttons on his elbows. And he was an intimidating teacher. First of all, we knew that he was a graduate of Harvard University. And we knew he was a tough teacher. He had come to our school from another school, and he didn't give many A's. And he didn't smile a whole lot either. And I remember the first time I exchanged any words with him, he had been reading us short stories by Hemingway. I think he just read us Cat in the Rain, which is a story I've told. And he was asking questions to people at random in class. He didn't know anybody's name, so he would just point at someone and ask a question. So he pointed at me and he asked some question. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember what my answer was, except that I kind of fumbled something out there. And he stared at me and said, "What is your name?" So I told him my name. He said, "Mr. Clark." That is the first intelligent answer I've heard all day. And he seemed to glare at me like that was not a good thing. Well, I learned a lot from Mr. Tunis, but one of the things he really believed in was Shakespeare. He loved Shakespeare, and he thought that the really only legitimate way to teach kids Shakespeare was to put on plays by Shakespeare, which is a great thing. I spent a month at the Folger Shakespeare Library a few years ago, and we were being taught to do exactly that, to put on Shakespeare in schools. It would be a great thing. Except Mr. Tunis was a very ambitious guy, so instead of doing, Romeo and Juliet or Midsummer Night's Dream, which is the classic Shakespeare play for teenagers, since they're both about teenagers, he decided to do King Lear. And he asked me if I would play King Lear. Now, I was 16 years old, and I'd never heard of King Lear. But I said to him, "Would I get to wear a sword?" And he said, "Sure." So we did King Lear. And I'm sure it wasn't all that wonderful theatrical experience for the people in the audience, but it changed my life. And it changed my life not only in that it made me interested in Shakespeare and acting, but it taught me that in great literature there is always something below. And in the greatest of literature there is no bottom at all. You just keep going down and down and down and never discover everything there is to be discovered. So I've been thinking about King Lear since I was 16. But that's not what I'm doing tonight. The next year, when I was a senior, we did Richard III, which is nowhere near as profound a play, but it's a great humdinger of an adventure play filled with sex and violence. And I got to play Richard in that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Richard III, just so you understand some of the stuff he's talking about. If you ask historians of that period, they will say that Shakespeare painted a ridiculous portrait of Richard III because Richard was actually a pretty good king. Didn't do all the terrible things Shakespeare said he did. And furthermore, was not physically deformed the way Shakespearean Richard III is. But as Mr. Tunis would say, if you had a choice between being remembered as this pretty good king, pretty much like all the other kings, or the greatest, most evil villain in history of English royalty, which would you like? And I think he's got the right thing. So this Richard is, as Mr. Tunis would say, a Nietzschean Superman. He's smarter than everybody else in the world, and he has no morals whatsoever, and he wants to become king. Now, if you're familiar with this soliloquy, I need to tell you that you may hear some lines you don't expect to hear, because Mr. Tunis took a bunch of lines from Henry VI, Part 3, which is the previous play in the history series, and added them because they were just such great lines. What else can I tell you? It's important. One more important thing about Mr. Tunis. He loved to act out the parts himself, and he would put on costumes, and he had this sword that he let me use, and he had no qualms at all about going up in front of a bunch of mocking teenagers and doing it. And one of his favorite speeches was from Richard III. It's actually the Duke of Clarence, Richard's brother, who has been put in the Tower in London by Richard and is about to be murdered in the Tower by a couple of thugs his brother Richard hired. And they're going to kill him by drowning him in a cask of wine. Now, those of you who teach English or have been taught English know this thing called foreshadowing. And so the foreshadowing in this scene is that Clarence has a nightmare in which he falls off a ship. And he wakes up and tells the guard, who's actually a pretty sympathetic guy, about his dream. And Mr. Tunis would do it for him. Now, Mr. Tunis was a wonderful teacher, but not a wonderful actor. A bit of a ham. And he would always start this speech, "Oh Lord," he thought, "what pain it was to drown. What dreadful noise of water in my ears. What horrid sights of death before my eyes." The speech I'm going to do now is the very first speech in Richard III. The Wars of the Roses have ended. King Edward has just been put on the throne. Richard is the Duke of Gloucester. And he's physically deformed. And that bothers him. And so, Act 1, Scene 1 of Richard III begins just Richard walking out on stage by himself. And he says, "Now is the winter of our discontent, a glorious summer by the sun of York. And all the clouds that lowered on our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front. And now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to frighten the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in the lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looting glass, I that am rudely stamped, and want love's majesty to strut before the wanton ample, I that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world scarce half made up, and that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them. Why, love forswore me in my mother's womb. And for I should not deal in love's soft laws, she did corrupt frail nature with some bribe, to shrink mine arm up like a withered shrub, to heap an envious mountain on my back, where sits deformity to mock my body, to to shape my legs of uneven size, to disproportion me in every part, like to a chaos or an unlicked bear whelp that carries no impression like the dam, and am I then a man to be beloved? Oh, monstrous, you harbor such a thought. Then since this birth affords no joy to me, save to command, to check, and o'erbear such as are a better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown, and whiles I live to account this earth, but hell, to a misshaped trunk that bears this head, be round impaled with a glorious crown, and yet I know not how to get the crown, for many lies stand between me and home. Edward, Clarence, Edward's young sons, and I, like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown. And from that torment, I will free myself. Or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why, I can smile, and murder while I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, or wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll slay more gazers than the basilisk. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, and deceive more slyly than Ulysses could. I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this? Can I get a crown? So, were it further off, I pluck it down. Plots have I laid, inductions dangerous, by drunken prophecies, libels of dreams, to set my brother Edward and the king, I'd set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false, and treacherous, this day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which says that G of Edward's heirs the murderer shall. Clarence, beware. Thou keepest me from the light, but I will sort the pitchy day. I have no brother. I'm like no brother. And this word, love, which graybeards call divine, be resident in men like one another and not in me. I am myself alone. Now, more back to Mr. Tunes. Have you got a special teacher that you really admire, but you're also a little afraid of because you think you're going to be sucked into his coterie? You know, you become one of his followers. And he had a bunch of followers, and they dressed like him, and they all started going to Bogart movies. He loved Bogart movies, and the girls would wear black fishnet stockings like Radcliffe girls. And I held myself a bit aloof from that until I graduated and went off to college. And we started writing to each other, and that was great. It was great to be more on a level, although I never could call him Bill. It was always Mr. Timmons. Anyway, I was doing some acting at Harvard, where I went just like him. And I got the part of Oedipus in Seneca's version of Oedipus. And I thought I wanted him to see it. So I wrote to him and said, would you like to come up to Cambridge and see this play? And he said he loved it. And so we arranged it, and it was great. And about 2 weeks before he was to come, I got a call from a friend of mine who'd been in his plays in high school. And she said, did you hear what happened to Mr. Tunes? And I said, no. She said, he's dead. I said, no. How did he die? She said, he drowned. He used to take students to his cabin on the Shenandoah River in Virginia, and they swim in the river, and this one time, somebody got swept under in the rapids, and he dived in to get her out. She was swept out, and never came out again. And I saw him in a dream not long after that. He was just standing there, smiling at me. And then he sort of put on his acting face and his acting voice and said, "I have returned from the dead." He always was a pretty bad actor. Although he died 44 years ago, he's never left. He's always with me. When I write, he sits on my shoulder, reading what I'm writing, scowling. And I'm very glad he's there. Thank you.
Now, we have to have a little bravery from those in the house. Alistair, are you back there? Can you give us a little hotline? We're going to do an improv. So I need to be able to do at least well enough to see who's daring to try this. So once I can see you, there you go. Who would like to try? Julia, I see you. Skylar, I see you. I see a hand, but I don't see the person on you. Can barely see you. I see you, yes. No, you.
Me or you?
No, you.
Okay.
No, Alistair's just working the lights. I just can't quite see you well enough to see who it is.
I'm here.
Come forward. All right, who else? You want to try? Who else wants to try? Because we could use, how many we got so far? Jason, Tim, okay, we got 5. And I have a 6. I'll take 5. You got it? Yeah, want to try it? Come try it. Yeah, we got a 6. Okay. All right, now, I'm going to tell you what you're doing, and I'm not going to tell them. So, come here. We can hear you. No, you can't. It's their orders, and you are just, the minute I say start, you're in the room, and tell enough of what's going on so the audience knows what's happening. Jason, you look a little confused. No, you're just getting into your... Yeah. All right, ready, go!
Well, I'd like to plead my case first, because what I want will be good for everybody.
Everybody here or everybody in the world? Like, what are you talking about?
How's that possible?
Yeah, how is this going to be good for?
Do I want to reveal that to everybody, what I want? Can I reveal what I want? What I'm going to buy with this winning ticket?
Plead your case, if you really want to plead your
I'm going to buy a
case.
damn hotel, and you can all stay there.
You're going to buy a hotel,
And play free casino.
play 3 casinos.
You know, you're going to like,
Prostitutes want that.
Whoa, easy.
hang get laid, I mean.
What if we're not from here? How's
Then
that?
you really need a
how's
place.
that? What if it's the weekend?
Don't you drive?
Yeah, I drive home. Home's not here. That's not
You
going to
know,
do me
if
any
you're
good.
boring,
Boring?
I don't really know that, but if you don't want to leave the house, I mean, you go
I like leaving the house, I just don't live here.
Before we start to, get hostile, I want to say something. That I don't like the situation we've been put in, where we're all arguing with each other. We were competing for something. And it'd be better if this was more of a collaborative thing. So I'm going to start by saying, I don't want it. I'm not going to tell you what I want. I'm going to give it to you. You can decide this. I'm the oldest one here. And I might as well tell you, too, that I have a fatal disease. I really have very little time left to live. So what do I care about hotels and prostitutes and money and cars?
I care more.
And
It seems the time, I'm just saying.
I'm glad that you still have a chance to achieve your lifelong dream of whatever it is.
What is your,
But I don't want
so what do you guys want then?
Can I ask a clarifying question? So, I thought that we were going to get, what we want.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we were going to get money, right? So are we getting money, or are we getting what we
Maybe if
want?
that's what you want.
Okay, so if you want money, then you can get money.
I think the money's gonna get you whatever.
Okay.
So I think the money
It's to go for the money? Okay.
Oh, you really believe that? That money can get you anything you want?
Yes.
This is a
Can't get me what I want.
philosophy class.
Look, we're not
I'm
getting
gonna
any
die in less than 6 months,
Look.
and all the money in the world won't change that.
People, we gotta agree on who's getting it.
Okay, what's your hits?
It doesn't matter whose its are, because everyone wants their own hit.
I want-
So what we gotta
Well,
do,
one hit might be more compelling than other hits.
it doesn't matter if it's compelling. Look, deep down, I wanna vote, I wanna go to Costa Rica. I don't care what you people do. So I say we draw tickets. We got them, we can make a short one. Whoever gets the short one gets the thing.
I want to know their things.
You want other things?
Yeah.
How long has it been?
Sorry, we only have 2 minutes left, right?
Look, this way, someone's gonna get it.
I'm not persuaded, I want to know their things. I mean, you're telling me everything, but I want to know.
All right. All I want is a better car so I can get around and go more comedy open mic so I can further my career, hopefully.
Oh, you get my car. It's simple. Beautiful.
That's cheap.
You can have
You're
my
driving,
car.
you're driving.
It's working.
Car. Car, if I get thrown out of the
If I get the boat, you get my car.
but you might not get the boat.
Yeah, but you might not get my car.
I have a car, but I don't know how much.
I would like a fuzzy egret that lives forever.
I want an education, but I mean, that's not important to you guys, because you're all looking for, I don't know exactly what you want. You want a boat? You want an egret?
Fuzzy egret.
Oh, fuzzy, I'm sorry.
Wait, what's first?
You all want material things.
I don't want material things. I want
Yeah, I'm excluding you. So,
I'm being excluded now?
I'm
Dying man.
Last I checked, an education is an excellent means to material things, so don't try to hold up this high and mighty end. Good plan, money's good, but
Yeah, money's good too, and so is like living, but he doesn't get to do that, so.
do we really need to harp on that right now?
Are you rescuing that animal? Is that a rescue animal?
Does this sound like a rescue animal? Lives forever. If ever there was a one-of-a-kind item. No offense, I mean, he wants for his own possession. That's, look,
Well,
So he's going to outlive you.
all right, so we know each other's things. Now, to draw tickets.
No,
That
that's
doesn't, that really doesn't seem like the best way, especially if you're putting this together, because if you're putting it together.
We
I
can let
feel-
him do it. He's neutral. He doesn't care who gets it because he doesn't want it. We've got
I'd be
like,
dead, before we do.
we've got like 2 minutes left. And if we don't,
We got 2 minutes
Thank you,
left.
thank you, thank you.
Hey, you get the egret.
All right, Shauna. There. This is Shauna, she's going to give us, and I'm going to read it here. It is a monologue that is based on a play by Jesse McCormick. The play is called Spine.
So I just wanted to say just a couple of words about this piece. It is a monologue that was originally written by playwright named Jesse McCormick, a play called Spine. I think his name is Julie. But perhaps because what I really want to do is either write or have someone write for me a one-woman show, but I can't quite seem to find the time or energy or the right show. Instead, I've just been playing with monologues, and this is one of them. And taking a monologue and sort of building a different character from it and blending my own writing into it. So it's sort of a found piece, and I'm quite grateful to Jesse McCormick for writing the original play. It's a great play. If you don't know it, it's somewhat obscure. But I've really taken it and made it something kind of different. And so it's a short monologue, and thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. So you said you wanted to know how I got into the business. Well, when I was 8 years old, my father started giving me an allowance. $40 a week. Even at the time, I knew that was a lot of money for a kid my age. And then, on top of that, he gives me a $50 bill to carry around for mug money. See, when I was growing up, muggers used to prey on little kids in private school uniforms. And so, every morning before he left for work, he'd call out, "Got your mug money?" And eventually, this took its toll. I started living in fear all the time that I was going to be mugged. In the playground, on the way to school, coming home from a friend's house, on my way to my piano lessons. And then, I started to worry that $50 really wasn't that much money for someone who'd gone to all the trouble of mugging me. So, I started saving my allowance until I was walking around somewhere in the neighborhood of $800. And then, one day, it happened. I was walking home from school, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Give me all your money." And when he saw how much I had, he totally freaked out. He's like, "What's a kid like you walking around with all that cash for? Why do you got all that money, girl? What are you going to do with all that dough?" And then he started making fun of my wallet. It was this little plastic pink Hello Kitty wallet with a Velcro flap. He said, "You're going to carry around that much money? You got to get a real wallet, a man's wallet, not that little pussy wallet." I didn't know what he meant, so I said, "It's not a little pussy wallet, it's a Hello Kitty wallet." And he laughed. I made my assailant laugh. And then he told me if I ever told anyone about this, he would come find me. They left without my money. And after that, I wasn't afraid anymore. Fear as a concept disappeared from me. So you said you wanted to know how I got it started. And I guess that's as good a reason as any. Thank you.
So, Tim, I think that means we're up here.
Oh, that's
right. Yeah, I think so. Don't ask who for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. This is a scene from the dresser that Tim and I are going to do. Tim will give you a little introduction, and just so you, in case you didn't realize it, this is a mirror. And actually had a couple other props, but actually, why don't you tell them what it is?
Anybody know who played the dresser around Harwood? People do? Good. In it, there are two main characters, an aging Shakespearean actor, known only as Sir, and his dresser, Norman, who handles his costume and helps him with his makeup and gets him ready to go on stage. The setting is somewhere in England, not London. They are on tour. It's World War II. The Blitz is on. And they've been working together for many years, we think. But Norman noticed something this morning in the town where they're staying that upset him, disturbed him, because he saw Sir in the town square taking his clothes off and jumping up and down on his hat and acting, like a person who's gone mad. So took his mind, he kind of rescued him from that. He got his clothes back on and his hat. Sir didn't seem to know who Norman was at that time, but they meet up later on at the theater. And Sir, there's clearly something wrong, and you can tell that from the beginning. It's just a short scene. Oh, look, a dressing gown. Shall we put it on and keep ourselves warm? Yes. Here you are. What does it matter where you were or what you were doing this morning? You're here in the theater, safe and sound where you belong.
And the house?
And with a full house. Lovely.
Really? A full house?
Yes. Standing room only.
Do you know they bombed the Grand Theatre?
And much else of the city besides.
I made my debut at the Grand Theatre.
They weren't to know.
I shouldn't have come out this autumn. But I had no choice. He made me.
Who?
Monsieur Bress.
I had a friend who was ordered to rest. He obeyed, and that was the end of it. He got ever so ill, nearly became Catholic. Would you like a little rub down? I'm not surprised you're feeling dispirited. It's been ever so hard. No young men to play the juveniles, and the difficulty with Mr. Davenport Scott.
What news of Mr. Davenport Scott?
The police have opposed bail.
What?
Well, he'd had his second warning.
Then how then do we dispose our forces?
Mr. Thornton is standing by to play fool.
And who is Oswald?
Mr. Brown, I'm afraid.
Oh. Well, that leaves me a night short for reason not the need.
98 short, actually, if you take the text as gospel, but one or more less won't be too bothersome.
Oh. Thornton toothless as fool, Brown lisping as Oswald, Oxenby limping as Edmund. What have I come to? I've never had a theater company like this one. I'm reduced to old men, cripples, and Nancy boys. Herr Hitler has made it very difficult on Shakespearean companies.
It'll be a chapter for the book, sir. Oh, I hate to mention it, but we're going to be short for the storm, too. There's no one to operate the wind machine, not if Mr. Thornton is to play fool. Mr. Thornton's ever so good on the wind machine. I've told Madge, but she's very unsympathetic.
Well, you tell Madge from me that I must have the storm at full strength. Well, what about Oxenby?
Not the most amenable of gentlemen.
Well, send him to me at the half. I'll have a word with him, and I'd better talk with Point.
There you are, that's more like it. You're in the theater doing what you do best, and you're yourself again. You start making up. I'll go tell them to come and see you, have cleaned the wig and the beard, and I'll see what I can do with these. Shan't be a minute. Jumping on your hat, indeed. Oh, no, sir, not Othello.
The lines are foul. Up on your shorts, down on your long. Do we have a date for it? Instruct the puppeteer to renew the strings. Stuffing's escaping at the seams. Straw from the scarecrow lies scattered down stage left.
I'd have given anything to see the show tonight, you all blacked up, and Cordelia saying, "You be off me, Brittany, love me." Well, you see, Ducky, this King Lear has been around a bit.
You know, we had a game when it was with Benson. We called it risque. You had to turn a line to get a double entendre. The best I ever heard was from a character man named Barrington. You know the line, "What? 50 of my followers in a clap within a fortnight."
Yes, I know the line, and the story, too.
Yeah, well, on a train call from Aberdeen to Liverpool, a journey I recommend as punishment for deserters, Barrington came out with, "What? 50 of thy men with a clap within a fortnight." Another blank page.
The time has come, sir, if you don't mind my saying so, to stop waxing poetical and begin to wax a bit practical.
They're all the same color. Which stick do I use? I can't see the colors.
Start with the eyebrows, sir.
Eyebrows?
You have to soap the eyebrows. That's good. And then number 5, just the mask, you always say. Leave the upper lip and the chin clean for the mustache and beard. And not too high on the forehead. That's good. See? Easy as falling off a tightrope.
In some Pythagorean future life, I shall surely become a painter. Palette, a few brushes, 3 and 6 penny canvas, camp stool, and no one to drive.
Nobody drives you but yourself.
How dare you? How would you know? Who says I drive myself? I'm driven, driven, driven.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to upset you.
You have to believe in yourself, in your destiny. You have to keep faith with your aspirations and allow yourself to become enslaved to the bondages everlasting. How dare you?
I'm sorry I mentioned it.
You have to learn to wait, wait, wait. And the moment comes when you launch your bark and you take the rudder and then, oh my masters, beware. The effort to forget everything that you're risking, to face a first night audience before whom to bare your soul. Put your entire life in jeopardy, time after time. To bare your back to the stripes of the critics, and to go on doing these things year after year, because it's easier to climb than it is to hang on. Now do you know why Benson wrote to me after my first essay into management, may you have the health and strength to go on.
You should put that in the book.
Do they know what it means? Do they care? No, I hate the swines. Who?
All right, sir. Shall we go on and on and on with our makeup?
There was a time when I had to paint in all the lines. Now I merely deepen what's already there. Norman!
Sir?
How does the play begin?
Which play, sir?
Tonight! I can't remember my first line.
Attend the lords of France and Burgundy, Gloucester!
Yes. What performance is this?
Tonight will be your 227th performance of the part, sir.
227 years. I can't remember the first line.
And you've forgotten something else, sir. We have to sink our cheeks.
I shall look like this in my coffin.
And now, a broad stripe of number 20 down the nose. Gives strength, you say?
Were you able to find any brown impulses?
Not yet. I'll keep looking. But we have enough to continue the tour. And now we mix the white hard varnish with some surgical spirits, don't we?
I know how to stick on a beard. I've been a depictor for over 40 years and steered my own course for more than 30. Do you think I don't know how to attach a mustache and beard? You overstep the mark, boy. Don't get above yourself. You shall need to rest after the storm scene.
You don't have to tell me. I know.
How? something's missing. What's missing?
I don't want to get above myself, sir, but what about the wig? And shall we take a bit more care with it tonight? On Tuesday, Richard III looked like he was wearing a peaked cap.
Hot. Unbearably hot. Going to faint.
Oh, have some of this. It won't do any harm. Oh, no, sir. We mustn't give up. Not now. Not now. Let's highlight our lines.
Imagine bombing Grand Theater. Barbarians! I shall give them. Tom!
Sir!
My first line. I've forgotten to get into all this chitter chatter. Clatter clatter.
Attend the lords of France and Burgundy.
You've driven it from my head. You must keep silent while I'm dressing. I have work to do. Hard, bloody labor. I have to carry the world, the whole bloody universe.
Sir. I'll take you through.
Through. Nobody takes. You're put through it. Night after night. That happens.
It's a game, but it's a sport too, like, you know, like baseball. How many times have your friends said to you, I don't take it so hard just because the Yankees won again. It's only a game. Well, yeah, it's a game. But it's a sport too, you know, like horseshoes. I mean, who doesn't like a sport that allows you to gain points from almost getting the big score? Horseshoes. Now, maybe you don't get the ringer. If you get a leaner, you know, get the horseshoe leaning on the post, you get a point. Almost. You don't get that in football. Patriots ball on the Raiders' 4-yard line. The snap. Brady hands to Smith. He's at the 3, the 2. He's down. Is he in? Is he in? Oh, inches from the goal line. Almost. And New England gets their nice try point, and the Patriots lead 1-0.
Yay.
No. I like different sports. I pay attention to a number of them, to varying degrees. I don't have a TV, so I go to ESPN.com, that kind of thing. But I like listening on occasion to baseball, and I love listening to the Red Sox on the radio. Can't help it. Born and bred in the area. You know, you can blame Dad. Fathers are usually responsible for that sort of thing anyway. But anyway, I know the game, I'm familiar with the team, and this allows me to use my field of imagination, and I love that. I do. But what I have a hard time with is the commercialization of the game. Now, yeah, okay, sports have been commercialized since the beginning. I mean, our entire lives have been commercialized. I mean, you can't go online, and you know this. You're standing in front of, or sitting in front of the monitor, and your little arrow is, well, you think that's a safe place. That's a safe place right there, and there's nothing there, but of course there is. It's embedded. It, boom, hits you right in the face. And for a guy my age, what do you think that is? It hits me right in the face. Yes, a scantily clad young woman. You think you know me? You don't know me. Well, maybe a little bit. Maybe, you know. Seriously. So there's a whole, raft of commercials before the game, whole raft of commercials after the game. And I understand that. I can accept that. What I have a hard time accepting are the commercials during the actual
play-by-play of the baseball game. The pitch to Ortiz. There's a sky-high pop-up, towering above the infield. Who's going to get it? Fans, don't forget to stop at Mike's Brews on Lansdowne Street after the game tonight. Mike's features a large selection of wines, ales, beer, and many of the local micro brews. So for that after the game thirst quencher, please stop at Mike's Brews and please drink responsibly. Derek Jeter makes the catch for the final out of the inning, and the score remains 0-0. Oh, I just keep trying, don't I? Ooh, alrighty. Yeah, well, as much as I despise the commercials during the play-by-play of the baseball game, I hate, and I don't think, excuse me, too much Red Bull. I hate the sponsorships. Pedroia leads away from first base. Sabathia looks over there. There goes Petey. This stolen base attempt is sponsored by Homeland Security Systems. When you're away from home, you can trust Homeland to watch your house. Pedroia slides. He is safe. This safe call is sponsored by Monroe Safe Company. From your smallest pinky diamond to your largest personal howitzer, Monroe Safe has containment for all your valuables. I don't know, Joe. That was a pretty close play. Looking at on the replay, Pedroia looks like he might have been out, and the umpires are conferring. Oh, they've changed the call. But Pedroia is out now. He is out. This out call is sponsored by Out. When you're doggy do and you don't, get out, mutt. With apologies to all the puppy lovers out there. Here comes manager John Farrell. He's not very happy with this change of events. Oh, he's going nose to nose with umpire Al Harrington. Oh, he's jumping. Oh, he picks up second base and throws it into center field. This manager meltdown is sponsored by Heather and Feather Family Counseling Systems. When your ball player strays from the base paths, let Heather and Feather help you guide him back into the dugout. I just want to listen to the baseball game. Is that too much to ask? Hey, what a big hand for me. Yeah, about time. About time. Hey, how about those Olympics, huh? How about those Olympics? No, I'm not talking about the Winter Olympics. I mean, yeah, those were great. If you like the sport, there was a lot to digest there. Those were just great. I'm talking about the 2014 pothole Olympics. Are they over yet? Are they over? Can we say that? I mean, driving along on some of these secondary roads, I still think I might be driving on the moon. I don't know. I mean, you know, they should have had, they seem to go on forever, those pothole Olympics. They should have had an opening ceremony. You know, a nice parade right down the main streets. Or at least a parade down Western Avenue. How about that, huh? With a mechanic leading the procession, holding a blowtorch. And a nice float behind him, you know, with a garage up there, and a bunch of other mechanics hanging out and holding blowtorches. Nah, nothing. But everybody got to participate in these Olympics, didn't they? Well, you couldn't help it. You had to. No standing on the sidelines, no staying home and watching it on television, although I got the feeling that as time went by, more and more people would have rathered stayed home and watched that on TV. But you know, you had to get out there. You had to go for the gold, go for the silver, the bronze. I don't know. It seemed like I guess it was the garages who collected most of the silver, and every once in a while some of the gold. Oh, that hurt. But everybody got to place, didn't they? In those games, everybody was placing, even though the usual place was standing outside your vehicle looking down at the road. Oh, I won. there were just so many great events. I just couldn't pick my favorite. I still can't. Like the sinkhole drop-off competition. That was a pretty good one. Yeah. The tire shred. You know, if your driving skills weren't up to a certain standard, you shouldn't even have been out there. Okay, you were just in the way. Amateurs. The flaming muffler. Now, that could be pretty spectacular. You know, you had to have your cameras ready. I bet some of you had your cameras out, your phones out there, so you could just put some stuff online for someone to stumble upon. The axle crack. Not the same thing as the axle break, where you know, the thing just breaks. Axle crack, you had to have a pretty good, no.
So, when I was in college, I had this wonderful professor that always wanted me to do a one-woman show. And his favorite thing to direct and to have his students write were their dreams. So freshman year acting class, we did all this weird stuff, and then we had to come in with scripts of our dreams and perform them with our fellow classmates. And it was strange and incredible because dreams are filled with all this deep imagery, and he would have us connect it with stories of our lives. So, he died 2 years ago, and I've always been thinking, man, I really have to make my one-woman show. I really have to. There's a Facebook group where a bunch of my classmates are posting about their one-person shows and how they're honoring him in all of these various ways. And I'm ready to start thinking about mine. So here's a beginning of it. I've always wanted to do theater. My dream was to band together with a bunch of my friends and move off to a farm somewhere and farm and have an insular, sustainable community and make art all day. So I went to college for theater. And it was fantastic. It was the dream. I made so many wonderful friends. We had all this creative juice flowing in the college, and it was great. And then senior year came along, and we're touring the country doing showcases, and you know, all my friends are going to these auditions, and I'm going to auditions, and we're all sort of spreading ourselves thin. Everyone's telling us, you have to get a job, you have to audition for this movie, you have to get an agent, you have to, and I sort of lost my focus. The dream got diluted by all these have-tos. You have to make it, you have to. And when I graduated, I was full of self-doubt. I had this dream. I was flying, alone, in this beautiful blue sky. And I've always disliked birds because I don't like the sound of feathers. But I was a bird, and I had these feathers, and boy, did the wind feel good blowing through them. I felt so free and wonderful, and I turned my head and looked around, and there's all these other birds flying with me, and we are flying together, and I know that we are phoenixes. And we are all the phoenixes in the whole world flying together over this beautiful pine forest of these magnificent trees, and we're flying and it's sunny and everything feels so good. And out of the corner of my eye I see whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Flames, smoke, ash, falling to the ground. It's time. It's time for us to be reborn. Whoosh, whoosh. All of these flames all around me are burning up all of the phoenixes in the whole world. And I'm flying and like, oh, this is the best day. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And whoosh, whoosh, I'm the only one left. And I'm flying and I'm like, okay, it's my turn now. It's not happening. And I keep flying. And I just continue on. So after college, I keep auditioning for things. I'm working 60 hours in a week, volunteering for this theater company and that theater company, and working in a cafe. And I'm not following the path I thought I would. And I get pregnant. And it's terrifying. And I don't know what to do. And then I have this other dream. I'm sitting in an old farmhouse at a long, old country table, the one with the wide boards. And I'm sitting around the table with these people that I know and love. Some of my friends from childhood that I respect as artists, they're there and I'm there, and we're all in our 50s. And we're having a beautiful dinner together. And outside the rain is coming down and it's dark. There's thunder and lightning. And we're all safe together and happy and sharing bread together. And then there's a knock on the door. And I go alone. And I open the door. And it's my child. My child. All grown up. It's happened without me. Nothing to do with it. And here it is, in my kitchen, in my dream kitchen. And I realized I'd made a terrible mistake. Because that was a life that I could have had. And instead I chose this. Well, I kept the child and had such a rough winter. Morning sickness, the working 60 hours a week. And, you know, I got a wonderful acting gig and then I lost it. They asked me to leave because I couldn't get my brain out of pregnancy. I was too in my own world. I reconnected with an old boyfriend, and then I lost him too. It was the hardest 4 months of my life. And then I had another dream. I was sitting out in an audience, just like this one, and I was surrounded by all these people, and everyone is rapt. Their attention on this woman standing up. She's a motivational speaker, and she says, you know, we all have hard times. It's okay. You are not alone. Maybe things get hard, and maybe you are sad. It's okay. And it's okay to have some self-pity too. Anyone have self-pity in this audience? Anyone? Anyone? Well, I'm here to give you a hug. If you need a hug, raise your hand. So I'm sitting there, and the woman next to me is like, and, you know, one by one, the whole audience starts raising their hand. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, wait, I don't. I'm okay. The woman next to me says, are you gonna raise your hand? And I say, no, okay. founded a theater company with some friends, and we've been having a wonderful time these past years. I'm married, and my daughter is 5 years old, and she is the light of my life. Thank you.
Thanks to the Shakespeare in the Park BTC production that's directed by Adrian Major. We have a scene from As You Like It that's going to be coming up. So could we have Robert, Katie, Marion, and Skylar come up and tell us what it's do, whatever. Just a little bit out of your way.
Say a word or two about where we're going with this. The production is of As You Like It, and we're currently in rehearsals. We'll be performing their last weekend in June. That will be Memorial Park. So we are presenting the second part of Act 1, Scene 2, and then Scene 3 in its entirety. All right. That will be enough for you Shakespeare aficionados. We have a lot of Shakespeare tonight.
Young sir, have you challenged Charles the wrestler?
No, fair princess. He is the general challenger. I come but in, as others do, to try with him the strength of my youth.
Young gentleman, your spirits are bold beyond your years. You have seen cruel proof of this blade strength. If you saw yourself with your eyes or knew with your judgment, the fear of your adventure would counsel you to a more equal enterprise. We pray you, for your own safety, to embrace your safety and give over this attempt.
Do good, sir. Your reputation will not therefore be misprized. We shall make it our suit to the Duke that the wrestling will not go forward.
I beseech you, punish me not with your hard thoughts, wherein I confess me much guilty to deny so fair, excellent ladies anything. But let your fair eyes and kind thoughts go with me to my trial, wherein, if I be foiled, there is but one shamed who was never gracious. If killed, but one dead that was willing to be so. I will do my friends no injury, for I have none to lament me. The world no harm, for in it I but do fill up a place, which may be better supplied when I have made it empty.
What little strength you have. And mine, to be cursed out.
Oh, by heaven, I pray I be deceived in you.
Your heart's desires be with you.
You shall try but one fall.
No, my Hercules, be with you, good man. I wish I were invisible. I could grab the old man, but I couldn't. Excellent, young man. I had a thunderbolt in my eye. I could close you down.
No more!
Yes, I beseech your grace. I am not yet well breathed.
What is thy name, young man?
Orlando, my liege, youngest son of Sir Roland de Boys.
I would thou hadst been son to some man else. The world esteemed thy father honorable, but I did find him still mine enemy. Thou shouldst have pleased me better with this deed, hadst thou descended another house. Fare thee well, thou art a gallant youth. I would thou hadst told me of another father.
Were I my father, cuz, would I do this?
I would rather be Sir Rowland's son, his youngest son, and would not change that calling to be adopted heir of Frederick.
My mother loved Sir Rowland as her soul, and all the world was of my mother's mind.
I know before this young man his son, I would have given him tears unto entreaties ere he should have ventured thus.
Gentle coz, let us go thank him and encourage him. My father's rough and envious disposition sticks me at heart.
Young sir, you have well deserved if you do keep your promises in love, but justly, as you have exceeded all promise. Your mistress shall be happy.
Gentlemen, where this from you? One of suits of fortune who would give more of a better man perhaps than you. Shall we go, cuz?
Very well, fair gentlemen.
Can I not say I thank you? My better parts are all thrown down, and what stands here up is but a quintain, a mere lifeless block.
He calls us back. My prize fell on my fortunes. I'll ask him what he will.
Did you call good, sir?
Sir, you have wrestled well and overthrown more than just your enemies.
Will you go, Cuz?
Thank you.
Farewell, good sir.
What passion hangs these weights upon my tongue? I could not speak, and yet she urged conference. Oh, poor Orlando, thou art overthrown, or Charles, or something weaker masters thee. Now must I from the smoke unto the smother, from tyrant duke unto a tyrant brother. Heavenly Rosaline.
Why, Rosaline? So, Cupid, have mercy. What, not a word? I'm not one to throw at a dog.
All thy words are too precious to cast away on earth. Come, throw some at me. Blame me with reason.
Then there were two cousins laid out, one lame with reason, the other mad without any. All this for thy vanished mother.
No, some of it is from my child's father.
Oh, how full of briars is this working day world? They're just birds, cousin. Cast hardly in holiday foolery if we walk not on trodden path or very petticoats will catch. I could cast them off my petticoat. These birds are in my heart. Oh, have them away. I would if I could cry him, have him. Oh, wrestle with thy aggression. Oh, they take the part of a better wrestler than myself. Good word upon you. You will try in time to spite a fall. But putting these debts out of service,
Let us talk in earnest.
is it possible on such a sudden you should fall into so great a liking with old Sir Rowland's youngest son? Did my mother love his father dearly? Does it then ensue that you should love him dearly? By this kind of chase, I should hate him, for my father hated his father dearly. Oh, I hate not Orlando. Pray, don't hate him for my sake. Why should I? Doth he not deserve well? Aye, that he doth, and let me love him for that. Oh, here comes the Duke.
Mistress,
Oh, that's full finger.
dispatch thee with thy safest haste and get thee from our court.
Me, uncle?
You, cousin. Within these 10 days, if that thou beest found so near our public court as 20 miles, thou diest for it.
I do beseech your grace. Let me the knowledge of my fault to bear with me. I hold not intelligence. I do not dream or be not frantic as I do not think I am. And never so much as a thought on board did I offend your highness.
Thus do all traitors. If their purgation did exist in words, they are as innocent as grace itself. Let it suffice thee that I trust thee not.
Your mistrust cannot make me a traitor. Tell me wherein the likelihood depends.
Thou art thy mother's daughter, there's enough.
So was I when you took her dukedom. So was I when you banished her. Treason is not inherited, my lord, or if we do derive it from our friends, what's that to me? My mother was no traitor. And my lord, think me not so much think that my poverty is treacherous. Dear sovereign, hear me speak.
Aye, Celia, we stayed her for your sake. Else had she with her mother ranged along.
I did not then entreat to have her stay. That was your pleasure and your remorse. I was too young then to value her, but I know her now, and if she a traitor be, why, so am I. We still have slept together, rose in an instant, learned, played, ate together, and wheresoever we went, like Juno's swan, there we went, coupled and inseparable.
She is too subtle for thee, and her smoothness, her very silence, and her patience speak to the people, and they pity her. Thou art a fool, she robs thee of thy name, and thou shalt show more bright and seem more virtuous when she is gone. Then open not thy mouth. Firm and irrevocable is my doom that I have passed upon her. She is banished.
Put that on me, then. I cannot live without her company.
You are a fool. You, niece, provide yourself. If you outstay the time, upon my honor, and in the fullness of my word, you die.
My poor Rosaline, whither wilt thou go? Wilt thou change fathers? I will give thee mine. I charge thee, be not more grieved than I. I have more cause. Thou hast not. Dost thou know not that the Duke hath banished me, his daughter? But he hath not. Hath not? Rosaline then lacks love that teaches her that thou and I are one. Shall we be sundered? Shall we part, sweet girl? No. Let my father seek another heir. Therefore, devise we the fittest way and safest way that we may fly. Line, whither to go? Whither to go and what to bear with us, line. And do not seek to take charge upon you to put your griefs to yourself and leave me out. For by heaven and that sorrow's pale, say what thou wilt, I will go with thee. Whither wilt we go? Seek thy mother in the forest of Arden.
Alas, what danger it be to maids as we are to travel forth so far.
I will put myself in poor and mean attire, and with a kind of umber smirch my face, the like to you. There we shall pass, and there, sir, sailors.
Were it not better, because I am more than common tall, if I did suit myself in all places like a man, a gallant curtal axe upon my thigh, a boar spear in my hand, and in my heart lie there what maiden fears their will. We'll have a swashing and a marshal outside, as do many other mannish cowards that do outface it with their semblances.
What shall I call thee when thou art a man?
With no less name than Jove's own page, therefore look you call me Ganymede. And what shall you be called?
Something in reference to my state. No longer Celia, but Aliena.
But what if we were to essay to steal the Cornish wool from your father's court? Would he not be a comfort to our travels?
Oh, you would travel o'er the wide world with me. Leave me to woo him. But away. Let us gather our jewels and our wealth together, and devise we the fittest way and safest place to hide the search that is sure to come after my flight. Come, go we in content to liberty and not to banishment.
Okay, Charles Monette is our next performer, and Charles is going to be giving us the first 8 minutes, the first 8 pages, I should say, of the one-man show that he's been working on called Van Gogh at 61. So it's a work in process from Charles.
John, thank you for this opportunity and for keeping this wonderful performance space alive. We're done. I have directed in this space 3 times, and been on stage as an actor twice. And I hope to premiere this show in October here. All goes well. So, tonight is kind of a hybrid lecture performance. And thank you for being here and listening. In 1976, I was working on a trail crew in Rocky Mountain National Park. And my trail foreman's name was Gene. And Gene was a retired Colorado Highway Patrol motorcycle cop. Chain smoke, Camel cigarettes, pockmarked face, pretty looked like a tough character. And he kept calling me Van Gogh. And I had a red beard at that time. And but I didn't even know who Van Gogh was. My art history education hadn't been realized at that point. So one day, I kept asking, what's with this Van Gogh? Why do you keep calling me Van Gogh? So he invited me to dinner down at his cabin with his wife, Linda. And I walked into the cabin, and on every wall were these beautiful watercolors that Gene, the motorcycle cop, had done all these beautiful paintings. And he began to educate me about the life and art and work of Vincent Van Gogh. In 2011, this book came out, Van Gogh, The Life, and I first got wind of it on 60 Minutes show. And what fascinated me and drew me to it was that they have compelling evidence. These guys did this amazing research, had this team, investigative authors. They have compelling evidence that Van Gogh did not commit suicide. Now, I'm not going to give you all of the evidence, but I'll just give you a couple of pieces of it. And number one, the gun was never found. His easel was never found. The angle of the shot, he was shot in the stomach, could not have been self-inflicted. Most people who commit suicide with a revolver do not shoot themselves in the stomach. They shoot themselves in the head. And there were 2 16-year-old boys in Auvers, where he was living, who used to harass him, put salt in his coffee, snakes in his paint boxes, and one of them, his uncle, had a revolver similar to what killed Vincent. And the 16-year-old boy, one of them, there's a photo of him in a Buffalo Bill costume with chaps. And one of Van Gogh's, the last things he said to the police was, "Don't look for anyone else in this." So, deducing from all those clues, my take on it is that he knew he was going to die. He was shot accidentally by the 16-year-old boys, one of them. Knew he was going to die. Didn't want to implicate them. He said, "Don't look for anyone else in this." And, literally bit the bullet. So I ordered the book, and it's over 800 pages. And what fascinated me was, as you can see, almost on every page there were 2 or 3 or more direct quotes from Vincent Van Gogh. And so I got this idea, well, I'm going to do a one-man show and tell the story, tell his story in his own words. And tonight I hope to begin to do that. I've written 30 pages of the show. I think it'll be approximately 37 pages long, 1 page for each year of his life. And I told John I would come with about 13 minutes worth, 8 pages. 85% of the words that you're going to hear are direct quotes from Van Gogh, telling the story in his own words. And I've been trying to memorize it for 2 weeks, and I'll do the best I can. You know, I didn't commit suicide, as you've all been told. I want to tell you what really happened that day. How I came to die in Theo's arms in the early morning of July 30th, 1890. Many have written about me, analyzed, criticized, scrutinized my life's work, my art. Let me tell you my story. My childhood work consisted of little scratches. Of course, it is really and truly not until later that the artistic sensibility develops and ripens. You know, Dutchman invented both the microscope and the telescope. I was given to watching and studying life on the windy moors of Zunder, the blooming of a wildflower, the laboring of an insect, the nesting of a bird. You know, since childhood, Theo and I shared a liking for peering behind the scenes. Still, my youth was gloomy, cold, sterile. Nonetheless, I did my best to refresh and rejuvenate myself in nature. I spent 3 months on the moors, where the soul in the presence of God's immaculate creation throws off the yoke of conventions, forgets society, and loosens its bonds with the strength of renewed youth. I studied birds, the lark, the wren, the golden oriole. I had quite a bug collection. I used to pin them all the specimens, and label them with their horribly long Latin names. Yet I knew them all. Then I'd return to the world to search for human companionship. That always seemed to elude me, even in childhood. On a rainy day in October 1864, my parents, Doris and Anna Van Gogh, bundled me in a yellow carriage and drove me 13 miles north to Zevenbergen. On the steps of the boarding school, they said goodbye. I was 11. I could see the little yellow carriage down the road, wet with rain, spare trees on either side, running through the meadows. Father came 2 weeks later to calm and console me. I flung my arms around him. It was a moment in which we both knew we had a Father in heaven. I felt out of place at Probably, learned absolutely nothing. I wrote countless letters imploring my parents to let me leave, to come home. Finally, after 2 years, they relented, but not to home as I had hoped. They enrolled me in the Tilburg School, even further away from them. My course load was heavy. I filled my time, my loneliness, memorizing French, English, German poetry. Despite my misery, I did well. Fourth best record among my classmates. My art teacher taught us to sketch the impression an object makes, instead of the object itself. Had there been someone then to tell me what perspective was, how much misery I should have been spared. Soon it was 1868. I had to choose a profession, but did not know which. I went back to the bugs and to wandering the moors. I was distraught for more than a year. Finally, in July 1869, Father and he accompanied me on a train to The Hague, and I was registered as an office clerk at Guggenheim, my Uncle Vincent's House of Art. I threw myself into the work, apprenticing from daybreak till dark, dusting picture frames, arranging window displays. Occasionally I helped box a painting or assist a a customer in the art supply store. My supervisor, Tearstick, was a taskmaster, but he radiated poetry. I looked to him as being of a higher order. He really impressed me. While employed there, I went to the museum as often as possible. It was a good thing to know the old painters. I told Theo at this time, admire as much as you can. Most people don't admire enough. I never tired of studying the old masters. Although I would never admit it then, I also secretly admired the silly pictures of courtly life by Italian and Spanish painters. Those brilliant peacock feathers. I thought them splendid. Still, I was lonely. In many ways, it was a miserable time. I tried to enjoy walks in the nearby countryside. Socializing required money. My salary was meager. I barely had enough to cover room and board. I reached out to Theo, imploring him to come to The Hague, to walk my woods with me. One day we walked along together along the Ridgewood Road, drank milk at the mill. That day is perhaps the most beautiful in my memory. I could not have written or drawn what I felt that day. We were bound up as one, thinking, feeling, believing the same. We talked with a pretty blonde girl named Caroline, who we met at a family gathering. She was beautiful, wore wildflowers in her hair. One half of me fancied I was in love. The other half I really was. I wanted only to give to her without asking anything in return. I told Theo, if I could not have a good woman, I shall take a bad one. It was true. I would sooner be with a bad whore than be alone. Taking many trips down dark roads, backside alleys, I ventured to sit, to share a drink, to play cards, or simply to talk. I asked Theo, is it wrong to seek affection with these women who were so damned and condemned? I truly felt something for them. Some days later, he left. When he left, I wrote, Dear Theo, I missed you the first few days. It felt strange not to find you here. Father sent a letter. Theo had joined the art trade. I was thrilled. I was so happy for him. I wrote Theo, I wish you luck from the bottom of my heart. Goupil House is such a wonderful house. The more ambition one has, the more work one does, the more ambition it gives you. Then Vincent and Terstig decided that I would have to leave The Hague. I was being transferred to the Goupil branch in London. I told Theo it has been decided that I have to leave. I am sorry to have to leave this place. I vowed to Theo that I would not take things too hard. I started smoking a pipe like Father. It was a remedy to the blues that I happen to have now. I told him of my resolve to enjoy everything, take on everything London had to offer. Said that I should probably have to live alone there. Imagine how sorry I was to leave The Hague, my home country. Father and Mother came for a brief visit. My mother asked, did you leave everything behind in good order? I stayed in Paris for a few days on my way to London. I wasn't sure why, but when I saw Paris for the first time, I felt above all that dreary misery which I could not whip away. On to London, a cesspit compared to The Hague. But I found the neighborhood so peaceful and pleasant that you almost forgot you were in London. There was a lovely garden in front, and walking about everywhere, charming parks could be found. I spent a glorious Saturday boating on the Thames with my colleagues. Evenings with my fellow boarders were pleasant. I bought a top hat. I found English art very bad and uninteresting. The stark black and white images printed from woodcuts. Something about them seemed quite wrong. I spent my time taking walks, miles on miles, roaming the back streets, reading and writing letters. Yet I never felt in my element there. My mood became stony, arid, hardened instead of sensitive toward people. The art house there was not as interesting as the one in The Hague. Good pictures were difficult to find. I was grubbing. Soon nothing was as beautiful as it seemed to me in the beginning. Perhaps it was my fault. I would often think that later on I would be of some use. Considering the circumstances, I guess I was doing pretty well. I imagined I'd get used to it and made an effort to bear it. I wrote to Caroline, my maiden fair with bright drooping hair. I borrow that line from Keats. I told Caroline that I yearned for a homeland. A small spot in the world where we are sent to stay. I have not got there yet, I said, though I am straining after it and perhaps may grasp it yet. If only you would join me there. I made an uneasy peace with mother and father, and they invited me home for Christmas. They wanted me home. Making a mad dash from London, I was soon riding in an open wagon on a starry moonlit night. It was a storybook Christmas, and Helvert looked wonderful with the lights in the village and the steeple amidst the snow-covered poplars. I was filled with nostalgia and wishful of a good visit. I was in good spirits. I'd been eating well, attending to my clothes on my arrival, even my sister Anna, so that I looked good. Soon enough, my father turned a deaf ear to my kind words and pure thoughts. I returned to London. Now I wish that Theo was transferred here. I told him we must manage that someday. At work, they complain of my lack of social graces, that I haven't the temperament for sales, unsuitable. Most people didn't know who I was just then. I wrote a letter to my father. In it, I enclosed the poem of exile that I had translated into Dutch from my parents. What use is there in banishing him from one shore and then another? He is the desolate son of a beloved land. Let us give a homeland to the poor exile. I was their desolate son in exile. Poor exile. In May of 1875, I found an apartment in the Montmartre section of Paris. The city was in an uproar over these mud-splashing painters who styled themselves the Société Anonyme, the Anonymous Society. They called themselves impressionists, lunatics. Renoir and Cézanne sparked a riot of outrage when they tried to sell their paintings at the auction house. Claude Monet was accused of conducting a war on beauty. They created little fragments of the mirror of life. They even claimed to paint light. Sheer lunacy. I didn't pay much attention to them. Theo tried to interest me in their work, but from what he told me about Impressionism, it was not clear to me what it really was. Besides, I had found religion. I was reading a lot those days. Philosophy, poetry, nature guides, self-improvement books, George Eliot novels, histories, and the latest craze, biographies. I love Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. Dante, Shakespeare, Goethe. They could discern the loveliness of things.
Next
Next up, we have, just so you know what we have to come, we have Ian and Ben are going to do monologues, and in between those two, we have Nell's Jane and Jess's Jane Austen project. So that's what remains of our show. So let's get Ian up here to tell us about his experience in the Peace Corps.
So, I'm going to do this a lot like a, can everyone hear me okay, or do I need to? Okay. Last time I was up on this stage, I spent about 3 hours yelling at Francis Howard in nuts. So, but
He deserved it.
He deserved it, yes. But I've been addicted recently to a podcast called The Mob. And I've realized how wonderful storytelling is. This is why you're up here. So I'm going to do it a little bit like that. And I am doing it because it's about 5 years since I returned from the Peace Corps, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And I have started thinking more about it, and there's the stereotype: you come home, you read a book, and you talk about Peace Corps. I held off on that a little bit, but I'm thinking maybe it's time to do that. So you're my guinea pig, so I'm sorry. When I learned pretty young some hard life stories, my mom passed away pretty suddenly when I was 7 years old. And 6 months later, my grandmother, who kind of stepped in, had a heart attack and passed away as well. So 2 very important people who were supposed to be rock solid ripped out my life right away. And it kind of forced me into hearing stories and talking about things and thinking about something else. There has to be something else. I remember the first time I went back on stage and thought I could call someone mom. I was like, wow, someone is reacting to me calling them mom. And I would rush, whenever the National Geographic came in the mail, I would run inside and rip it open and look at the maps and wonder where I was going with my 80 cents in my piggy bank. But I was going somewhere. And I was looking, and in 6th grade, my math teacher said, I have a Kosovo friend for you that you're going to teach how to speak English. And I went, where's Kosovo? I had no idea. But he was there, didn't speak English, I didn't speak any Albanian. Somehow we made it work. And she told me, after this experience, you should join the Peace Corps. And I went, Peace Corps? Okay. And all that mattered to me about knowing about the Peace Corps was they paid you to live overseas. Okay. Little did I know that living overseas pretty much constituted a room about this big, no running water, sporadic electricity, and man, 50 degrees, 60 degrees can get cold when it's been raining for weeks and you have no central heat. But I knew, I was like, I'm going to the Peace Corps. I'm going to the Peace Corps. And back then, Peace Corps really didn't give you a chance to decide where you wanted to go. I'm hearing through the Peace Corps grapevine, they're changing that a little bit. But I said, I don't care where I go. I'm going somewhere. So I said, I can teach English, I speak Spanish, send me somewhere to Latin America. So they sent me to Mozambique, because that makes sense. And Mozambique in 1999-2000 had a GDP of $79. $79. This was a poor country. The UN has said that the Mozambican Civil War is probably the nastiest civil war that humanity has seen, only recently outdone by what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo right now. I remember getting my Peace Corps invitation letter, and my dad reading to me Bem-vindo ao Moçambique in really bad Portuguese. And my aunt turned and went to her iPod and put on the Bob Dylan song, Mozambique. Anybody know that song? Anybody? Even really, really die-hard Bob Dylan songs, they really, really don't know that. It's a really obscure song. Written in 1975, that could be labeled false marketing, because they talk about magic in a magical land, and I read on the internet about landmines and civil wars. But I'm going. So when people ask me about Africa, they say, tell me about Africa in 2 sentences, 2 words. 54 different countries, over 1 billion people. I'm supposed to condense it down to 2 words. But if I don't, you see the glaze over in their face, and they're like, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, nice. 100-degree weather in the shade for 5 days in a row. But I would say heat and noise in Africa. Peace Corps markets itself as the toughest job you'll ever love. And boy, did I love it. Open my eyes in the morning, you're a Peace Corps volunteer. You're working from the minute you open the door, which you have to do right away because something is crawling across the floor that you wanted to get out. And I regularly had to remind myself, like I was living in National Geographic, basically. I'd open up to palm trees and monkeys around. I would make sure I didn't bother the hyena sometimes when I had to go use the bathroom late at night. I came across a hyena 1 or 2 times on the way to my outhouse. But a lot of times it just got so much because privacy just doesn't exist there. Privacy, I just want to be alone. Who would you talk to if you were alone is what I got a lot. Like, I don't want to talk. That's why I want to be alone. So I got a dog. And the dog was named Timisela. I showed up to pick her up from a friend. I was supposed to dog sit. Well, the friend was on a job in Portugal. I showed up. She said she had a puppy. I had a little basket. The puppy was about this big. This big. And really happy to see me. I didn't have a car. I lived about 25 kilometers away, which is probably here to Bellows Falls. Without a car, that's hard to get to. Mozambicans are deathly afraid of dogs because the South Africans would use them whenever they came in to the country, invading during apartheid. So I show up at the bus stop saying the dog and me are getting on the bus. And they went, no, you're not. No. We'll tie it to the roof. And I went, no, you're not. So this was the Toyota 380 bus, which was a Toyota pickup truck, 3 people in the front, 80 people in the back, and a little cover to keep the rain off of probably about this much of your head when it rained. I bought the front 2 seats because I said, I'll pay for the dog, I'll pay for me, we'll sit in the front. The poor driver was driving the entire time like this because he was so scared of this dog that wouldn't do anything but lick. So she peed all over the bus, of course, on the way up there. She was petrified. She had no idea who I was, but I called her Timisela, which was Shitswa, the local language for patience, because I had to remind myself to have patience every minute of every day. Even to this day, when my cell phone starts up, it says Timisela on it, so I remember patience. Patience. And when using the cell phone in a place like Vermont. But anyway, I had Timisela and loved her. She would follow me to school. She would curl up under my desk at school. They really weren't going to yell at me for having a dog in the classroom when chickens were running through my classroom. And I brought that up with my director, and he said, but chickens are food. And I went, you're not eating the dog. So Timmy Sella used to follow me when I would go into town to sit under a tree. She'd curl up when I wanted to go out to a restaurant. She'd follow me out. The restaurant owners loved her. They'd bring out water for her, any scraps of meat that they had. If I didn't pull the chair for the dog, she would glare at me until I pulled the chair. She'd sit on the chair and just lap at her water from the table. And one day, though, I wake up. She usually slept outside. I wake up and open the door, and she's not there. And I'm just going, okay. And I don't really worry about it too much because she's disappeared before. It's very expensive to fix a dog there, so she'd disappear every couple of months when she was in heat, and I preferred that because I didn't want 80 puppies in my yard. And she didn't come back that night. I put food out thinking, hey, maybe she'll come back. Next day, she wasn't there, and the food was empty. So I thought, maybe she's wandering around. Happened one more time, but the food was still there the next morning. So I started asking around if people had seen her. No one had seen her. No one had seen her. And I started just getting very nervous because I'm thinking, this is my family here. What's happening? Like, what is going on? And then I'm correcting papers one morning. I was a high school English and social studies teacher. I'm correcting papers one morning and someone calls me saying, teacher, you have to come to the market. African markets are, at least in Mozambique, very loud, very bustling, full of spices and color and energy and severed pig heads and everything. And I meet him at the new market, and when I'm coming in, he just looks at me with this look of like, I'm so sorry, and I knew he had found my dog, not alive. She was in the middle of the market with her throat cut from ear to ear. The blood was still fresh, and she was covered in ants. This was a dog who never, ever did anything to anybody, except maybe steal a chicken once, but I paid for the chicken. But her throat was cut, and I silenced that market in 2 minutes, not even 2 seconds. I silenced it because everyone was looking at the tall white man who was screaming his head off in the middle of the market, English, swearing in every imaginable swear I could think of, screaming at everybody. And I had no idea what was going on. It was literally tunnel vision, and I didn't know what to do. My students came by, and they took the dog back to my yard and buried her, and then told me, why don't you leave for a little while? I went to the beach to get away. I didn't want to see anybody. I was seriously considering coming home because I felt so violated. And as I'm at the beach, I get a text message from, no running water, but I do have text message and cell phone and that. But I get a text message saying from a colleague saying, come by when you get back. He knew where I was. So I came by, and he said the usual formalities of sitting down, asking about how your day was, whether or not you stood up that day. That's how you literally ask it in the local dialect. And whether or not you stood up, you asked about your chickens, your goats, your children's goats, and everyone else's in the area, how they're doing. And then all of a sudden, he opens the door to his kitchen area, and this little Jack Russell, or as close to a Jack Russell as you can find in rural Africa, comes bounding out, stops dead, looks straight at me, and jumps into my lap. And she said, or my colleague said to me, she's yours. And I went, huh? Yeah, take her. And I was like, what do I name her? And he said to me, Kurinzela. And I went, okay. All right, what's it mean? Hope. And I went, hope? Okay, why hope? And he said, hope that you stay. Thank you.
We have a scene from Jane Austen. This is a project, and Nell a while back sent an email to a bunch of folks, including myself, saying that she really wanted to see Jane Austen come alive on the stage. Oh, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, so as John was saying, this has been an idea of mine for a while, and it was very hard to find people who were interested, but I finally got in touch with Jess Kelker, and we got together in January, and I showed her my notes, and she took her notes, and 6 months went by, we didn't really hear much from each other, we weren't able to get in touch very often, so I contacted her after I heard about Act Out, and she was like, oh yeah, you can come by anytime, and so after another couple of false starts, we finally did get together at the same time, the same place. I showed her what I was thinking of. I had the book. I was looking through the book, for the record, for anyone who's familiar with it, is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. It was her very first novel. And I wanted a scene with Marianne and Eleanor Dashwood, the main characters, who were sisters. And I wanted it to be one where anyone who's not familiar with the story will get a general idea of what's going on. So in this scene, just for context, Marianne is the youngest sister, and she's been dating a guy who has just swept her off her feet, and she's a highly romantic person, and she's also 17, so she thinks she knows everything. And Eleanor is the older sister. She's much more practical, a lot more concerned with how her sister is living her life, and she's been waiting up all night for her sister to come home because she has to come home all night. So that is the scene. Hope you enjoy it.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning? Really?
I'm really tired. I think I'll just go to bed.
Where have you been?
I don't need to explain myself to you.
You're right, you don't. It would be the responsible thing to do.
We do this later.
I called you.
Sorry.
I called you when you were supposed to be home. I called you at midnight. I called you every 30 minutes after that until 5 in the morning when I considered calling the police.
I'm fine.
Where were you?
My phone ran out of power. I'm sorry I didn't call you. The car broke down. But really, I'm 17. I can take care of myself.
Really?
The car broke down out in Guilford. We went and stayed at Will's aunt's house.
Will's aunt?
Yeah, she has a house out there.
You could have called AAA or something.
Dead phone. I think we did the responsible thing.
Responsible does not just mean taking care of yourself. Responsible means letting the people that care about you know that you're all right.
I don't need a lecture right now, Eleanor. I need sleep.
You and Will didn't get much sleep?
No, we had to walk a mile to our house and then find a way to get in.
Wait, what? She wasn't there?
No, she's out at the Cape or something.
It was just you and Will.
Yes, me and Will. Good night.
Whoa, no. You do not say something like that and then walk away from the conversation. Marianne, did something happen?
I said I can take care of myself. That means knowing when and how to say no.
So he gave you the opportunity?
Of course he did. How's he going to pass up the opportunity like that? He asked very sweetly and unassumingly if I would like to snuggle in the same bed.
That doesn't sound very innocent.
Of course it doesn't. I know it wasn't. I know he wanted something else. That's why I said no. I slept in the guest room, Ellie.
What's Will gonna tell his aunt?
I don't know, probably nothing.
You can't do that.
I know when I'm doing something wrong, and this wasn't wrong.
Why, it wasn't wrong because it felt so right? What are you going to tell Mom?
I don't know, I'll figure it out.
She's pretty freaked out.
Oh,
I told her when I heard you pulling in, and she went to her room.
okay, well maybe I'll just
Don't. She hasn't been this upset in a really long time.
She has to get used to the idea that I'm growing up.
Well, it might be easier if you were a little more responsible.
Okay, I get it. I screwed up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to freak Mom out or upset you. I was just having such a good time, Ellie. We were in this gorgeous house. It was so beautiful, and I could just imagine living there, living like a real person, and making the beds and doing the dishes, and we made food, and we sat on the couch and we watched a movie, and then in the morning we took a walk, and there was an arbor and this little pond, and then there was one of those bench swings, and I just got caught up in it all, and I didn't think about you guys. I'm sorry. Next time we go out and do something, I'll charge my phone and I will call you if something comes up, okay?
That's better.
Can I just go to bed? Be with Mom later.
All right, and our last act for the evening is Ben will come up and do a short monologue for us. Come on up, Ben.
Wow, what a great show. It's awesome. Thanks, John Mack, everybody. I put this together as a personal favor to him, but I do have something to plug. I'm going to be acting in a production of August Osage County in Putney, Vermont, directed by Hallie Flower with Apron Theater, and that opens July 10th, runs for 2 weekends, so you should definitely come see that. But this is a monologue that I made by cutting a short story by Donald Barthelemy called The School. So enjoy. Well, we had all these children out planting trees, see, because, well, we figured that it was part of their education, you know, to see how the root systems and just a sense of responsibility, taking care of things, of being individually responsible, you know what I mean. And the trees all died. They were orange trees. I don't know how they died. They just died. Something was wrong with the soil, perhaps, or maybe the stuff we got from the nursery wasn't the best. We complained about it. Anyway, so we've got these 30 kids out, each with his or her own little tree to plant, and we've got these 30 dead trees. It wouldn't have been so bad, except that a couple weeks before the thing with the trees, the snakes all died. And I think that the snakes, well, the reason the snakes died was because the boiler was shut down for 4 days during the strike, and that was explicable. It was something you could explain to the kids because of the strike. So when things started up again and we found the snakes, they weren't too disturbed. Of course, we knew the tropical fish were going to die. I mean, that was no surprise. Happens every year. Calls for tropical fishing, but there's nothing we can do. Just have to hurry past it. Or maybe, I don't like to think about sabotage, but it crossed our minds. We were thinking that way probably because before that, the gerbils all died. And the white mice had died. And the salamander. Well, at least now they know not to carry them around in plastic bags. We weren't even supposed to have a puppy. It was just this puppy that the Murdoch girl found under a Christie's truck one day as she was going to school, and she was afraid that the puppy would get killed when the driver came back, and she put it in her knapsack and brought it to the school. So we had this puppy. They named it Edgar. They named it after me. They enjoyed the ambiguity. I enjoyed it myself. I don't mind being kidded. They even made a home for it in the supply closet and all that. I don't know what it died of. Distemper, I guess. Probably didn't have any of the shots. Class took it pretty hard, and I think nobody ever said anything to me directly to feel that maybe there was something wrong with the school. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the school particularly. I've seen better and I've seen worse. It's just a run of bad luck. There were an extraordinary number of parents passing away. There were, I think, 2 heart attacks, 2 suicides, 1 drowning, and 4 all killed together in a car accident. 1 stroke. And there was the usual heavy mortality rate among the grandparents. Or maybe it was heavier this year. It seems so. And then there was the tragedy. The tragedy occurred when Matthew Wine and Tony Mavricordo were playing near where they were excavating for the new federal office building. There were these big wooden beams all stacked up at the edge of the excavation. It's a court case coming out of that. The parents are claiming that the beams were poorly stacked. I don't know what's true and what's not. Strange year. Forgot to mention Billy Grant's father was knifed fatally. Grappled with a masked intruder in his home. One day we had a discussion in class. They said, where do they go? The trees, salamander, tropical fish, Edgar, mommies and daddies, Matthew and Tony, where did they go? I said, I don't know. They said, who knows? I said, nobody knows. And they said, is death that which gives meaning to life? I said, no. Life is that which gives meaning to life. And they said, but isn't death considered as a fundamental datum the means by which the taken for granted mundanity of the everyday will be transcended in the direction of, I said, yes, maybe. They said, we don't like it. I said, that's sound. They said, it's a bloody shame. I said, it is. They said, will you make love now with Helen, our teaching assistant, so that we may see how it is done? We've heard so much about it, and we know you like Helen. I do like Helen, but I said no, that I would be fired. And besides, it was never, or almost never done as a demonstration. Helen looked out the window. They said, please make love with Helen. We require an assertion of value. We are frightened. I said that they shouldn't be frightened, although I am often frightened, and that there was value in everything. Helen came and embraced me. I kissed her a few times on the brow. We held each other. The children were excited. Then there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and the new gerbil walked in. The children cheered wildly. Thank you.